Hello everybody and welcome to a new discussion video. In this list we're going to be talking about various anime that we think deserve an extra season. But do remember this is a hypothetical situation. We're well aware that there are reasons behind some of the series not having extra seasons. But if we could choose, this is what we'd have. So the first anime we want to talk about is HANA, which had a first season. Was the first season 2 years ago? Seems quite a while ago.
Yeah, 2013.
Jeez. And it had, right at the end of it, it had a, like, I don't know, it was like a minute long like trailer, like preview of this next season that was going to come, and it was all like action packed and it was all super hype, and then it just never came, did it?
Which is really disappointing. Like, I'm really hoping that they made the series in mind for a second season and a third season, you know, because it's not really, like, they chose rotoscoping, right, which really doesn't make it that popular. In fact, it's the opposite of what it does.
Yeah, it was really controversial at the time. Everyone was saying it was like terrible and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's what made the series so good, you know. Like, the manga itself, it used little children, which in some cases is kind of disturbing, you know, if you think about it, like teenagers going through all that. But the anime made it seem more adultish, right? Like, added tension, made it more slow-paced.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit more realistic as well, because it was, you know, the facial expressions and stuff like that were really, you know, human-like at points.
Exactly, the director knew what he was doing with the series, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember there was an episode where I had like a 7-minute walking scene, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, I didn't skip that scene. I was watching it, you know, like it was
really encapsulating.
Yeah, it was like so tense, you know. I don't know why. It was just two people walking. I still remember how amazing that scene was. And but yeah, amazing show. Still hoping it gets a sequel. I think it just got overshadowed because it was in the same season as Attack on Titan and HATARAku MAOU-SAMA.
It certainly left a lot of its story, you know, to the second season and stuff like that, like unexplained plot points and things that we were waiting to happen or waiting to see the outcome of, that just like we got to see a preview but then nothing else. So I think that's definitely one that I'd like to see in the future.
Exactly, especially now that Mushishi's over, there's more time for him to direct this show. Yeah. And surely if they made a preview they had plans for a sequel, but I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. They animated it and everything,
exactly.
So I mean, they must have done some kind of work on it.
But yeah, I hope it comes out soon, you know.
That'd be interesting to see. So yeah, so what about HARUHI SUZUMIYA, which is our second one on the list?
This is just because the second season was pointless, you know. Like, they wasted 8 episodes, and I felt like that was like kind of a betrayal, you know. Like, it wasn't enough to satisfy what I wanted from it. Yeah,
especially because it was so popular and stuff like that. And I think the studio has reasons or whatever to the third season not coming out. But I think HARUHI SUZUMIYA is like one of the most notorious sequels. Surely, like season 3 is the one that you always hear people talking about, and you always hear people requesting and stuff like that.
But it's kind of surprising because Kyoto Ani funds their own shows, right? Or they're the managers of their own show.
I think they have I think they have more control than your usual studio. Yeah. I think it's was it Kodansha or whatever that company is?
Yeah, they work with them.
I think they work pretty closely.
Which is kind of surprising. Like, a popular show like HARUHI that isn't getting the third season when it can make quite a lot of money for them. Yeah.
It's an interesting one, especially because it's been like the fans have been so vocal. I'm pretty sure there's been like petitions and stuff with thousands and thousands of people. So it's an interesting one because it has been so notorious over the years.
Plus, I just can't help but imagine, like, if there is a new season, it'll have like animation quality similar to the movie, because of how well Kyoto Animation's improved its animation recently.
Yeah, I mean, some of their recent works have been incredible. Like Euphonium last year, or was it this year, was just like had some incredible scenes, like just like really, really high quality animation and the movements and stuff like that. So, and
even Phantom World, you know, had really detailed,
even that,
like pure gold scenes, you know, just amazing. There's clearly more than enough source material to go around for this.
So that'll be an interesting one. I'm not sure if that will ever happen, but you never know. So the next one is KAIJI, The Ultimate Survivor, which is a manga adaptation which is quite popular and has had 50 episodes so far, so 2 seasons. But there's still manga to adapt and still some really good stuff to adapt into, so I think that would be a really good one to get maybe a season 3 or whatever.
Yeah. KAIJI can turn anything into like an intense moment, you know. It's just like, I remember when I first started, I was thinking they started the, you know, cards arc, the rock paper scissors arc, I mean.
Yeah, the rock paper scissors
and I was thinking, what the hell, how is a show that plays rock paper scissors rated this high? And I stuck through it just out of like pure curiosity, right? and it was just amazing, you know, like how everything just was executed.
Yeah, the way they can create tension for like literally no point. There's like no point to like some of the stuff that happens, but they present it in such a like a tense kind of crazy way that it makes so much tension in the series. Just amazing. And
they're not afraid to go into like really dark stuff, you know, like there was an arc where he was sold as a slave, right, to work in a mine.
Yeah, that was. I think that was the first and the second season.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite arc overall. You know, like how he had to work to get out of that. You know, how he had to suffer and everything, and it was just amazing. The manga itself, they've only adapted part 1 of I think 5 or 6 parts.
Yeah, and I think the best content from the manga is still to come. So, like, I think the Pachinko arc is considered one of the weaker arcs in the whole series, and that was still like pretty entertaining. Like, that was still pretty intense, even though they were just using like machines, like gambling machines. It was still this kind of really intense set of episodes.
It was pretty dragged out, though. You know, like
definitely. It was... I think that's why a lot of people were maybe a little bit disappointed at the final arc and the kind of final conclusion.
But overall, it's a great show, you know.
Well, I guess the next one's kind of similar to Kaiji because it's from the same mangaka. It's Akagi. I think Madhouse done this one as well, didn't they?
Yeah, it was right.
It was a couple of years before.
Yeah. I think they were just like, you know, adapting his works.
Yeah, and so basically, Akagi is the like prequel manga to 10, which is another one of his works. And essentially, I think it's been going on for something crazy like 15 years or something, and they're still on the same arc. So I don't think the manga's going anywhere just now. And then the anime just ended. It just ended like literally on almost like on a cliffhanger, almost like on an episode cliffhanger. It was like, oh, plot point's about to happen, and then the series just ends, and we never got anything else. So I don't think they could. I think it's going to be a while before they can finish off the Akagi manga, but they could certainly do like a second season into 10, which is essentially his story but later on in his life and what he gets up to then. So
it's kind of understandable though, like the game that they play in Akagi isn't really a popular game here. I'm not.
Definitely.
I'm not. Is it popular in Japan?
I think it's popular in Japan. It's obviously not like I don't think you could just like go into it and understand what's going on, like rock paper scissors or even pachinko. It's like it has this like super in-depth set of rules and all these things that are going on. It's kind of like it's kind of similar to dominoes, isn't it? But it's got like 10 times more complex rules because there's all these signs and stuff going on. So it's definitely not something that you can just jump right into, although you can still kind of get why certain moments are tense and stuff like that. It's definitely not something that you can just easily step right into. So maybe that's one of the reasons why it isn't as popular as Kaiji.
Plus the art style can sometimes put people off, you know, like
definitely
the pointiness. It's kind of off-putting.
yeah, that's definitely when you first look at it, it's a bit you're not too sure about it, but once you actually start watching it, you realize it works so well. So I think an extra season of either of those two, or maybe even just more of Fukumoto's manga adaptations, would be fine, because they seem to all be fantastic so far,
especially
in their anime adaptations.
Especially the spiral that Madhouse is going in right now. Because right now they're just doing, you know, supernatural comedy, light-hearted stuff, you know.
Yeah.
It's been quite a long time since we've had... Well, not really, because Parasite was last year, I think.
Yeah,
you know.
I think Akagi was like 2008 or something, or 2006 or something, like ages ago like that. Yeah. That is one thing with Akagi as well, is that it was a couple of years before Kaiji and didn't get the kind of animation quality that Kaiji got. Like, it was still in 4:3, and you could see sometimes there was a little bit of a lack of animation at points. So I think like that, but Kaiji was such a big step up and had like animation quality improved so much.
It had a beautiful opening as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, next one's everyone's popular show.
Yep, this has got to be the surely the most talked about season 2, isn't it?
Yeah.
High School of the Dead.
Yeah.
Which this ended on kind of like a cliffhanger as well, didn't it? Maybe not a cliffhanger, but kind of a what happens next kind of moment. So
this was like one of the first few shows I've ever watched, because you know, I was really interested in zombies back then. I was a little kid, right? And I didn't know it had that level of nudity and everything, right? And I was just so blown away.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, it was to the point where I watched this on YouTube, you know, the official channel.
Yeah.
I think it was an official channel, I'm not sure. And it was English dub. And back then, I didn't know what HD was, you know. I was a guy who was watching anime 360, 480p at best.
I think we all did at the start.
Yeah, exactly. And then I remember coming across this on YouTube, and it was like 720p. And I was like, what is this, you know? And from then on, I loved it, you know. It had great action, great animation, you know. Oh my god, like, I think that was good animation for its time. I think it was 2010.
I think so, from what I can remember.
Yeah. The guns and it was just great all out, you know. Like
I think it's really accessible coming from like American TV or like British TV or whatever. It's like you can pretty easily, although it's kind of like there's the kind of like schoolgirl stuff going on, you can pretty easily just slip into High School of the Dead without really needing to understand much about anime. So I think that's why it's so like accessible for like newcomers.
Exactly. Like the characters were likable, you know. They developed properly, I want to say.
Yeah.
The manga, I think it's been on hiatus for quite a long time.
Yeah, I think it's like one of these things where like a volume will just come out like really irregularly and you won't get much content. So I think that's essentially the reason why we haven't got a season 2 yet. I think there's just not enough content to make one.
I'm kind of disappointed, really, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd rather they did that than make a second season that like didn't have enough content and had to make like filler episodes and stuff like that.
Yeah, but you could say they could have worked with the mangaka. Like,
yeah, that's true.
He could have just given like the basic outline of what happens, and the studio could have
Game of Thrones thing.
Yeah, and the studio could have just taken over. And Madhouse is capable, you know, original stuff. They're capable, no problem.
Yeah, definitely. The next one is HATARAKU MAOU-SAMA, which I guess if you weren't watching seasonal at the time, you might not have just picked up on, because I don't think it's been that popular since it aired back in 2012, I think.
You know, to your belief, it actually was. Like, this was the second most popular show that season, just right behind Attack on Titan.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, but like you don't really see it much these days, do you?
Yeah, that is true. Like, and barely anyone talks about it.
Yeah, so it was like a kind of comedy series, wasn't it? Like a kind of comedy series based on the story of it's quite weird. It's the story of like Lucifer and the devil, but also the story of a guy working at McDonald's. So it's quite an interesting little premise, and it had some cool little moments of comedy and stuff like that, and some fun characters. But just got one season, didn't it?
Yeah, I just have to say the premiere episode had some of the best demon action I've seen since Shinjeki no Bahamut.
Yeah,
it was like it trapped me in, you know, that first episode, and I was like, yes, this show's gonna be like this, and then it ended with them working in McDonald's, and I was like, what? Are you serious?
Yeah, that was like the big thing. Like, it was such a juxtaposition. It was quite funny.
White Fox and fantasy always go right, you know.
Yeah, and this is a light novel adaptation, I think.
Yeah.
So do they have content that they can adapt into more seasons?
I think so, because I've been seeing it on the rankings, but it's not as if White Fox never does sequels, so it could be doing one. And this show was sold more than enough Blu-rays. I think 12,000 per volume.
Wow, that's pretty good.
So all we could do now is just wait for the sequel.
Yeah, I think that would make an interesting season 2. I think. The next one is like another comedy series, a kind of classic comedy series, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great Teacher Onizuka, which I think was like 1997 or something. It's quite old, but it still stands up today. Like, absolutely still one of the best comedy series I've seen.
Especially the premiere episode was just like flat out gold, you know.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many just amazing episodes in this series. It's like the comedy's fantastic, and it's also kind of got like a nice heartfelt story to go with it. Like, you really get invested in the characters and stuff like that. So,
exactly.
I mean, I'd happily see any sort of extra content for this, to be honest. I don't care what they do. If they were to remake older episodes or adapt more of the manga or whatever, I'm happy with anything from this, to be honest. It's
been remade into everything but another season of anime, you know. They made it into like a Taiwanese drama, a Japanese drama, a movie, you know. These guys adapted everything but a second season.
Yeah. And
you're just sitting there thinking, are you serious? Like, but yeah, you know, it just came, like, in a way, Great Teacher Onizuka is similar to Assassination Classroom, you know. Like, how a teacher, you know, helps the students. And they even try to get, like, rid of him in Great Teacher Onizuka. Not kill him, but, you know. Simply, but yeah, he has
to kind of win them over, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. It'll make a great show, even a remake. It doesn't need one, but
it would be interesting to see how, like, the kind of modern comedy style and modern animation style plays into Great Teacher Onizuka.
Exactly.
Because I think it's obviously very different. I think kind of some of the visual, maybe more cartoonish elements might work interestingly with Great Teacher Onizuka, but there's no way to understand that until it actually comes out. So
if it
I mean, fingers crossed. It's it's probably the least likely on this list, but I mean, who knows? So the next one is the World God Only Knows, which is a dating sim comedy series, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it had 3 seasons, I think, and it's based off a manga that still has content to be adapted. So
yeah, it has one more arc to adapt, and that's the final arc.
Yeah.
Which is a shame though, because the studio went bankrupt. You know, like I would have preferred instead of Gangster, they made the final season of this.
Yeah. As
a show itself, it was really good. You know, it started off like, you know, pointless in a way. Like every 4 episodes or 3 episodes, like the memory of the girls resets. You know, they can't remember anything. But on the 3rd season, they remembered. You know.
Yeah.
Which made it more interesting. His reaction.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it like uses a lot of the kind of cliche stuff that you see in like every single anime, but then kind of uses that in its comedy and kind of like almost parodies it and satires it. So it's a pretty interesting look on what we normally get from that genre. Yeah,
and the chemistry between the 2 leads was really interesting.
Yeah. So the next one is CHIHAYAFURU, or however you pronounce that, which I actually haven't seen more than a couple of episodes of, so I'm not sure how it ended or whatever.
The show, in a way, it's similar to, well, the level of intensity is similar to KAIJI, you know?
Yeah.
I think they play like
yeah, it's like cards that are something to do with, like, it's all these complicated Japanese board games that are like they're already complicated to understand, but then like it's complicated to translate and understand. So It's like you really have to like watch a YouTube video to even understand what's going on for some of these. But yeah, someone like cards and cards with poems on them or something.
Yeah, it's they have a speaker playing, and the cards are all face down, so they have to remember which is where. And as soon as they hear, like, sometimes there were points, right, where as soon as the speaker spoke the first word, right, they just slam it down, you know, slam the card. I'm like, are you serious? Like, the level of intensity is just amazing. And
it kind of shows that you can kind of make like the actual subject matter doesn't actually matter that much when it comes to making things intense, because some of the most intense things on this list are games of chess and games of rock paper scissors. So
exactly. And I'm asking for a sequel because first thing, the manga's selling really well, every volume, and it's still ongoing. Plus a 3rd season would just be good in general, you know.
Yeah,
it'll still be popular in this time and age.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's a manga that still has content. I guess if it's still ongoing, then
a lot of content.
There's no reason to write it off. So the next one is a sport that I think most people will be more familiar with, and it's giant killing, which I think is like the anime is super underappreciated. Like hardly anybody talks about it, even though it's a football anime or soccer anime.
I think it's
the American viewers.
I think it's because it isn't like in a way it's not really as intense as like shows like Haikyuu or Kuroko no Basket, but it has its own formula of doing things. You know, it's more of a strategic type of show. You know.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't rush. You know, there's no power ups. There's no.
Yeah, it's very realistic, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's not kind of like. Yeah, big kind of superpower moments or anything like that.
Yeah, and you can clearly understand what the coach is doing, you know, to get the players through.
Yeah. I think it's like one of the only sport anime that I've watched that kind of have a focus on like elements outside the actual sport. Like I remember there was like big episodes that focused on the fans and stuff like that, and how like the people in the community, you know, used the football team and stuff like that, and how that developed and stuff like that. So I think that's like got to be one of the only anime I've seen do that.
Yeah.
And it's also not set in a high school. It's not like the high school sports team or whatever like that. It's a grown men's football team, which is interesting.
Yeah, the fans were a big role in the show.
Yeah, which I thought was really cool.
The fans were the reason the coach even came in. It's because they were unhappy with them losing consistently.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's clearly more than enough manga going through. Chapters still come out weekly on my phone, and it's just, you know, I don't know what studio did this. It feels like a Dean show,
Yeah, Studio Dean.
Yeah. So Dean, they could do sequels, no problem.
And it ended on just like, not even like an ending. It was just like, all right, okay, on to the next thing, and then the next thing never came. So
yeah, it ended like on the pre-match to the actual match.
So it was like the big moment, and then
it just ended.
I don't know how likely season 2 of this will be, because it doesn't even have that many viewers on MAL, to be honest, looking at this, and I'm not sure how well it sold. So if I mean, to be honest, football is becoming more and more popular over in Japan. It's one of the rising sports there, so who knows, but I'd certainly like love a season 2 from this. I thought it was a really, really interesting, unique sports anime. It'd be pretty cool to see.
They may release one when the World Cup's held in Japan.
Yeah, definitely. That's actually when I watched it, when the last World Cup was on.
Yeah.
So I just looked up football anime and just found that, which was pretty interesting.
But yeah, that's it for this part. We'll be doing this on a consistent basis, because I'm not sure what time frame I plan to do this yet. We'll be doing other videos like remakes and so on, manga to anime.
Some various other topics.
I'll be doing list versions of these one day after the discussion, just to make it easier for the people that can't watch the whole video.
And I guess if you have any any topics you'd want us to talk about, like specific ones like sequels or remakes or whatever, post them in the comments and we'll consider them.
Yeah, that'd be a really good idea. Thank you for watching. Check out Lewis, of course.
Thank you very much.
Take care.